This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so give me a second. Okay, great. So yesterday we were, firstly looking at the assignment and we said, what do we need the requirements and etc. And we'll take that assignment in a bit in a while. But we also said that there is something known as file handling, right? We said if you are, let's imagine that you are an administrator, okay? So because we are in the administration part of it, let's say you are an administrator. You're working for a, let's say, a car company, okay? Now this car company deals with multiple brands, new cars, used cars, accidental vehicles, a lot of things. You have like multiple data about cars and etc., and you want to store it somewhere, and you want to just write a program which can help users in order to find their cars and etc. Okay, this is something that your job is or your task is and etc. Now, as I discussed yesterday, you can be using something like a text document, like a very simple text document, like a txt file, a notepad file, where you can save all these things out, but it is not a very efficient way of doing it. Now, one of the efficient way of doing it is Excel. Yes, you can do it in Excel, but a better way to communicate, or to better way basically to store and for your applications to understand, is something like a serialization language. This is where I'm talking about something like a serialization language. Now, serialization languages are nothing but when you have multiple applications talking to each other, when you have, let's say, multiple servers or multiple things that are communicating with each other, they talk to each other in a predefined or a pre-agreed language. That is what is known as a serialization language. And serialization languages are something like XML, JSON, and there is something called YML or YAML. These are a couple of serialization languages, as I'm giving an example. And we are going to look at one specific example out here, which is called JSON. And JSON here is known as JavaScript Object Notation. Object notation. So the question then is, how do you write in JSON? How do you begin? How do you even start with JSON? So for that, I said yesterday that while coming to today's class, please go ahead and download something known as VS Code, right? Which is called Visual Studio Code, and it's a fairly simple software to go ahead and download and install it out. And as and when you download it, it'll appear somewhat like this. It'll say, okay, fine, get started and everything. It'll appear something like this. And in here, what I want to do is that I would say, okay, fine. I'll just click on open a folder. Okay, so I just want to work from a folder. So I'll say open a folder. I'll just create a new folder out here. I'll say JSON. So I'm just creating a new folder and I'm just selecting the folder. And right now it just opened my folder and it just said, okay, fine, you are in this particular folder here, which is called JSON handling. You can also open the folders from this particular selection out here. Just go to file and you can say open folder or open a file or whatever that you can do out here. It'll open only one folder at a time. You do not have like multiple folder views at one time. So it'll just open one folder at one time. And also one quick thing out here, guys, is that you might not get the same console. When I said open folder and when I open the folder, right, it directly open the folder. In your case, it might display a message telling that do you want to trust this folder, trust and not trust. Please click on trust, and that's when you'll see this kind of folder out here. Okay, now I want to write a file. Okay, I want to write a file with car details and etc. Right, I have, let's say, a bit of car details that I need to fill up, and I want to write a file. So what I'll do out here is that I'll say new file. Say start. I'll say new file. Great, and say select a language. So I'll say okay, fine. Click on this, select a language, and I'll say JSON because this is where I want to start with, or this is what I want to start writing with. Okay. So let's imagine that now I'm the administrator. I now want to start writing in JSON. Now JSON is a syntax specific language. You just cannot write it the way you write it in a notepad. Okay, it follows a couple of syntaxes, and everything in JSON is known as an object. Okay, because it's an object notation language, it's known as an object. Everything is known as an object out here. So now to start writing this out, I will have to start with something like braces. Okay, I am opening and I'm closing something known as what? The flower brackets, or we call this as braces. And everything inside these braces, everything that I write inside these braces are my objects. Okay, and JSON, in a JSON for language, we write all of this is in something known as key value pairs. Like there is a key, there is a value. So it's called a key value pair. So what I will write right now is that I'll say, okay, fine, car model. And I will say, now I am writing it in what? I'm writing it in quotes. I'm putting in quotes and I'm giving the key value pairs in quotes. So I am saying, okay, fine, car model is a string, and I'm saying this particular car model is something like Tata. So I'm saying, okay, fine, the car brand or the car model is something like Tata. Then now I also want to write something like the year of the manufacturing. Like let's say this is a second-hand car, and I also want to save the details of the year in which the car was manufactured, which is another detail, right? Which is another piece of information. So I will say comma. So I'm putting a comma there, doing an enter. In the line number 3, I will say year, and year is an integer, right? It cannot be, let's say, a string. I cannot write 1999 in words. It should be something like an integer. So I'll say it is 2010. This is how I define an integer without quotes. So the first is what? It's a string. Second is an integer. Third, I would like to say, is it new or is it old? So I will say, again, I'll add a key value pair and I'll say type. In the type, I can say either it's a new old. So I'll say, again, this is a string. So it should be in quotes. I'll say old. Finally, I also want to store information whether the car is accidental or not. Whether it's accidental, did it had an accident or something like that. So I'll say accidental, and this is either true or false. So this is what? A boolean. So what I'm trying to say out here is that the JSON language supports all kind of formats. A string, an integer, a boolean, whatever that you can think of. And how do I write a boolean? I'll say that's it. The color is different, true or either false. The color now is what? Different out here. This is how I'm expressing something known as a boolean out here. And I can just save this out. And when I save it, I'll just say car information or car info dot JSON file. It's a dot JSON. When we were saving a PowerShell script, it was a dot PS1. This is a dot JSON file. And it says, okay, fine. This is a dot JSON file. These are the properties of that particular car out here. It says, okay, fine. The car model is Tata, year is something like this, type is old, and then I'm saying it's accidental. Now, what I want to do is that I now want to write a PowerShell script. Now, I don't want to expose this file to anyone. This file is there somewhere in the backend. I want to write a PowerShell which reads through these files and gives me all the details, like the car model, the car year, the type, accidental, and etc. I want to just read this file. Okay. How do I do that? Is that I'm in the PowerShell console right now. Let's take this out. And I will start off with an empty variable. I will say the variable name is something like dot dollar data. I will say dollar data. I will say is equal to, let's say, get hyphen content. This is the command which is used to read a file, whether being a text file or whichever file it is. This is just to read a file. And since it's a file, it's expecting a path out here. And in my path, what I will do right now is that I will just change my working directory. Now my working directory is somewhere like C users welcome. This is where I'm working from. C users and welcome. This is where I'm like kind of working from. I will just change the path to the path where the file is saved. So wherever I'm saving the file, I'm just changing my path there. So I'll say, okay, fine. Let's go to this file. Let's go to the heads, right? And this is JSON handling. This is where my file is. I'm just copying the entire path and I'll say CD to JSON handling. So I am doing a CD, I'm doing a change directory, and I'm coming into this particular path out right now. And what I'll do out here is that instead of giving the full path right now, I will do a dot backslash. As and when I do this, I have this file called as what? JSON card, something like this. Now if I run this and if I look into the data, I have the data. It says car model is Tata, year is 2010, type is old, accidental is false. But it doesn't look great. It's still a JSON format. Users might not be able to understand this format like we do. Since we are working on JSON, we can. But if let's say this is something that I'm presenting to a customer, this might not look great, right? Because there is something like, let's say there's only one car information. You have hundreds of cars. Then how do you present this out? It'll be a bit difficult to handle this out, right? So what I would do is that for PowerShell to understand this particular language. Now PowerShell doesn't understand JSON by default. PowerShell understands a language called PowerShell because that's the language where it like kind of works on. It doesn't really understand what is this. It's just showing you some file. That's it. It's just showing you, okay, fine, I get this data and I'm just throwing this data. I'm just dumping this data out here. It doesn't really understand what that is. In order for PowerShell to understand that, I will have to convert it from a language, meaning I have to convert it from the JSON into the language where PowerShell understands. In order to do that, what I'll do is that I'll put a pipe here. Whenever I put a pipe, like the entire output is going as an input to the next command. Now whatever output is coming from the get hyphen content, this particular commandlet, I'm just passing it out to the next command, and here I will say convert from. Please convert this from hyphen JSON. Now whichever language that you have, like please convert it, let's say from the JSON, because right now I'm doing a JSON format right now, and I'm saying please convert it from the JSON language. I'm saying execute. As and when I do that, the dollar data will look like this. Now dollar data has informations like car model, year, type, accidental. Now when we were dealing with storage accounts and etc., right? When you said get hyphen AZ storage account, you got details similar to this, which is storage account name, location, all these things. Meaning this is now basically something known as a PS object, a PowerShell object right now. So I've converted it from a JSON into something known as a PowerShell object right now. And what I'll be doing right now is that right now I'll say write host. So I want to print out something, and I'll say the car model is, and I want to print out this particular model out here. And all this data is being stored in something known as what? Dollar data. What I'll do here is that I'll say dollar of dollar data dot car model. Now I can read through the objects. I can filter out, I can read through the objects. And now I'll say write host, the year is dollar of, again dollar data dot year. So I am just filtering out through this particular data out here, and I'm saying the year is this, and I'll say write host type dollar of dollar data dot type, meaning these are all the properties of the object right now, and I can go through and I can read through each and every property right now. telling that okay fine, this is the model, this is year, and etc. And finally I'll say okay fine, if it's accidental or not we can also say accidental, and I will say okay fine, dollar of dollar data dot accidental. This is the property. Now if I execute the entire script right now, now I'm getting something like the car model is Tata. Now this is where I'm getting things around. The year of the car is 2010. Type is old. Is it accidental? I'm saying false. Now this is a better way of displaying the output to a user in a simple text line format, but I'm not saving everything in a text file. I'm saving it in, let's say, a serialization language known as JSON, and I'm reading my entire JSON file. And as and when I'm reading my entire JSON file, I'm going through each and every object of that JSON, and I'm filtering through, and I'm basically reading through that particular object. Okay. Any questions still here, guys? Are everyone able to follow this? Anything here? Okay, so let's do a little bit of modification out here. Now, as I said, I am now an administrator who's working for, let's say, a car, let's say, a car resale and purchaser, and I want to basically store all the information out here. Now, do you think there's be only one car that I'll be interested in to know, right? There'll be a lot of cars. There'll be a lot of cars basically that I'm interested into, meaning I don't want to store just one set of informations. I want to store an array of informations. This is just one car information. I don't want to just store here just one car. I want to store a lot of cars. So what I will do is that I will start at line number 4 with something known as cars. Okay. In brackets, I'll say cars. I'll say colon, open and close square brackets. Once I open up and close a square bracket, it means that it's an array. Cars is an array, meaning it now expects that, okay, fine, there is multiple information that the user will now start providing me. I'll say enter, and inside this array, I'll now open up an object. How do I open up an object? Open and close brackets. Inside an array, I'm going ahead and I'm opening up and closing the brackets out here. So I'll just take this, I'll cut this out, paste it out here. Now I have an open and a close bracket. Like it's starting with an open and a close bracket. It should start with an open and a close bracket. Then I'm saying cars. And I am saying, okay, fine, the car model is Tata, car's year is 2010, type is old, accidental is false, and etc. Now I also want to store the details of another car. Let's say something like Maruti. I'll put a comma here at line number 10 where the first object is getting completed. I'll open up another object, and how do I open up another object? Again, open and close flower brackets or braces. And I'll say car model, something like Maruti. Year is something like 1999. It's old. Accidental is true. Automatically, it's giving me, okay, fine, there are two values that I can use. It's a boolean, either be true or either be false. And if I want to store something else, again, I put a comma here, and again I put an open and close square, curly braces, and again I say car model, something like Ford. Let's say the type is new, accidental is false, year is something like 2020. Doesn't matter what is the order, it's okay. I can jumble the order in any ways. The main thing is that I need to store all this information. That's the crux of everything. I'll just save right now. Now I want to now basically use a PowerShell script in order to type out all the information of all these cars. That whatever the cars basically information that I'm storing out here, whatever data that I'm storing out here, I now want to start typing out all these things out. I want to go with each and every car. Firstly, I want to do Tata. I want to type out all the details of Tata. Then I want to go to something like Maruti. Then I want to go to something like Ford, and I want to type all these things out. So what I'll do out here is that I'll come down to my script out here, and this needs a bit of change. Okay, I'll save this file again. So it's saved. Now, if I execute this out, if I just execute this line, now the information is a bit complex. Earlier, the information was very simple. I was able to read it. The information now is getting a bit complex. It's difficult for me to read from the output console. So I'll say, okay, fine. Firstly, convert the entire object into something known as the PowerShell object. And now, if I now execute something known as data, data looks something like this. Even this is not pleasing. Even this is not, let's say, the best way to project the information. But data is now coming to be as, okay, fine, cars, and then inside something like this. Now, if I do a data dot car model, what should I get, guys? What will I get here? Anyone? Of Tata.
We'll get the Tata, Maruti, Ford, and all.
Yeah. So whatever was the type, I mean, whatever was the model, car model,
Model type.
car, Tata, Maruti, and food. Three things are there. Let's try that out. I'm not getting anything. If I do a dollar data dot car model, I'm not getting anything out here. The reason being,
You have mentioned the car model spelling wrong thing.
okay, I'm still not getting anything. So even if I put the right spelling out here, something like dollar data dot car model, which is the right spelling of what we have put there, I am still not able to get anything. The reason being, you have another object right now known as cars, which is now acting as a parent, under which you have all these properties. Just called car model, which is called car year and everything. And even when I print out the data out here, if I just print out this data here, data firstly consists of what? Cars. And then inside cars, it consists of what? Car model, car year, type, and everything. So since it consists of cars here, it's starting with cars, right? Instead of car model, I'll say it is cars. I'll now execute this out. Now I'm getting something. This is how you go into a property. This is how you go and filter the property. Now, if I want car models, I'll say dollar data dot cars dot car model. Now I'm able to get what? Tata, Maruti, and Ford. And if I say year, if I want to see the year, it is dollar data dot cars dot year. I'm able to get this one out. Now the thing is that, okay, fine. The only thing that is missing between line number 3 and line number 5 is that you do not have a dot car here. I just printed out the car model is dollar data dot car model. If I put something like dollar data dot car model, it should work, right? So let's do one thing. Let's add something known as cars. I'm just adding this property known as cars here so that I will now be able to print out everything and see how the output came in. It said the car model is what? Tata Ford Maruti. It said the year is 2010, 1999, 2020, and then it said old, old, new, and then it said false, true, true, false. But this is not the way I was expecting it to be, right? I wanted it to print out individual information. Now, why is this coming in this way? Is because I am not now dealing with one piece of information. I am dealing with an array of information. Now, this is an array. When I just printed out something like dollar data dot cars, I am getting an array of information out here. Now, in order to convert this array into a pleasable string, I will need to do an iteration out there. So we did an iteration, something known as a for each loop, right? In the same way, I want to do a for each loop on top of data dot cars. Okay. So what I'll be doing out here is that I'll again say dollar data is equal to dollar data dot cars. I am now assigning the value of dollar data to dollar data dot cars, and now I will say for each dollar value in dollar data. For each value in dollar data, I'll say open up the loop and I'll say okay fine. I'll just take the same information out here. I'm just pasting my information here and I am saying I don't want all these things out. Car model and etc. Car year and etc. Great. I'm taking this out. The reason I am taking the cars out here is because dollar data already is containing dollar data dot cars. I don't have to do another dot cars here. Now I'll say for each value in data, the car model is what? Is this okay, guys? Is this format okay? Should it be data or should it be value? Value, right? Because I am using a temporary variable known as dollar value in order to look into what is data. So I am saying is value, not the data. Is value dot here. Let's say value dot type and value dot accidental. I'll say just to separate things out, I'll say write host. I'll use a line separator here, something like this. And now I'll just try to run this out. Now I'm getting all the information the way I want it to, right? I'm now saying the car model is Tata, the car year is 2010, type is old, accidental is false. And now I'm saying the car model is Maruti, year is 1999. Then I'm saying okay fine, it is not, it is accidental, it is true. Now I'm saying okay fine, the car model is Ford, the car is something like this. Now I now have another condition telling that I only want to print out the information of the cars that are non-accidental. Okay. Now I am printing out the details of everything that is accidental or not. I am just printing it out. I now want to print out the details of all the cars which are non-accidental only, because I just want to. I'm only looking into cars which are like brand new, or let's say which are non-accidental, and I don't want cars which are accidental in nature. So what do I do out here is that the dollar car dot or dollar data dot cars is the one which is giving me all the information of the cars, right? Let's say if I execute this out, dollar data now has what? All the information of the cars. This is getting that particular data from dollar data.cars, right? This is where it is getting things out. What I will do in line number 3 is that I'll put a pipeline again. I'm taking the output of the command which is coming from dollar data.cars. Dollar data.cars is giving you what? All these informations. I'll say where hyphen object, the one we did yesterday, and I'll say dollar underscore dot type. I only want the type, or sorry, I only want, let's say, dot accidental. I'm so basically using that property as my sign, and I'm saying dollar underscore dot accidental is equal to false. So if accidental is false, it means that it's not an accidental vehicle, and I'm filtering it out in this particular line. And I'm saying where accidental is false, and if I now execute this line, or if I now execute these two lines, if I now look into the data, okay, it's saying accidental is false. Object dollar is equal to false, and it's saying accidental is true. Okay, why did it filter out that? Let's see this. Object dollar accidental is equal to false. It's acting the other way around. When I said it's false, it's then basically giving that particular information. Let's say true. Okay, it's still giving the same information. Let's see. I'll say where object accidental
Not
is
equal to
like. Hmm?
False, you
not
have to give
equal to
small case, right?
Let's see what is the information that I'm getting out here. Like parameter. So anything which works, like equal to isn't working because it is considering it to be an absolute boolean. So that's the reason it's just giving me the information where it is true. But I want the information where it is false. Okay. Is this okay, guys? Now I also want to filter a condition here that I want two things out here. I want it to be non-accidental and I also want it to be new. Non-accidental and what? New. What I'll do is that can I do a multiple conditions here? I can definitely do multiple conditions out here. So what I'll do is just put a parenthesis, open and close. This is the first condition where I'm saying where object dollar dot accidental is like false. I'll say hyphen and. It's not an or, it's an and condition. I want something non-accidental and new. The only information that I will get right now is Ford. So I'll say and dollar underscore dot type is like new. I am now filtering out multiple conditions out here. Okay, I need to execute both the lines here because now I'm getting the right information, isn't it? So I am getting the details of the car which is non-accidental A and which is new. What if I want an accidental car which is new? What should be the condition here, guys? Can anyone tell me what should be the condition here? Anyone?
Like true.
Okay, like true.
Yes.
And new. So let's try this out. Dollar data is a null value because there is no car or there is no information of a car which is new and also accidental. So if I say either new or accidental, anything is okay for me. If it's accidental, it's okay, or if it's new, even that is okay. This condition, right? It shouldn't be and, it should be or, any one of the property. If I now filter it out, and now I say dollar data, it's showing me information of the car which is accidental, okay, which is also new. So these are the two properties, or this is how I'm filtering things out. Any questions still here, guys?
So far, you have taken two different statements.
Hmm.
Like, can we club three different statements by using and or in one single line?
You can do any number of statements, sir.
Okay.
You can do any number of statements. For example, I would now like to have only cars which are like about 2020 or which are about 2000 because I want something new. You can put a statement, you can put a like statement out there and say where dollar underscore dot year is like 20 hash or star wildcard. This is what you can do.
Okay.
So you can have multiple conditions there. But the point here is that you have to make sure to mention the condition properly. So I am properly mentioning the condition inside the parenthesis. So each and every parenthesis here is mentioning a condition separated by an or and an and statement. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions here, guys?
Yeah, hi. You're able to hear me?
Yeah, I am able to hear you.
Yeah, for example, if I have 100 records in a file and then I wanted to
Hmm.
access only a 21st record, actually, I do not know what is the contents inside it.
Hmm.
I just wanted to, access only 20th record.
So again, one thing that you'll have to understand, Ashok, is that this is not Excel. This is JSON. It doesn't have or it doesn't store records in the form of rows and columns. It stores records in the form of objects. So if you want to filter something, you need to have a parameter using which you can filter it out. If it were Excel, you can convert it from Excel and you can say, okay, fine, that is the 21st row what I need. But this is not Excel handling what you're doing. So this is JSON. JSON is a bit different. Like it's not storing things in a structured way. It's an unstructured format. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
You can pass a serial number. You can say record number 1, record number 2, and you can say find dot record number equal to 21. You can then get only that particular object. You can do that. You can pass in multiple properties here. Filter out that particular property. Okay. So any questions here, guys? So let's do one thing. Let's write an end-to-end program. Now I am now till now I am filtering it out. I now want the user to tell me what car he's looking for because that's the program what I need to write. That's, let's say, the application what I'm designing. I want the user to pass on information like, let's say, whether which brand of car he needs and which type of a car he's looking, old or new, and is accidental okay or not. All this information is something that I want the user to pass in. How do I let the user to pass in, guys? Can anyone tell me what is the statement that I need to do here? Param or read host. Anything is okay. So I'll say, right now I'll just come down here and I'll say, okay, fine, great. Now this script like I'll have to enhance this a lot. So what I'll do is I'll write altogether something new. So I'll say this is a user input. And now I'll say this dot car model. I'm saying what? A dollar car model. I'm saying is equal to read hyphen host. I'll say please enter car model. And since that there are only 3 models that I have right now, I will say Tata, Maruti and Ford. So I'll ask the user to choose from either Tata, Maruti or Ford. These are 3 things that I have right now. Second thing I'll say, let's see, car type. I'll say car type. I'll say read host, new or accidental, sorry, new or old. And I'll just put a question mark here. I'm just asking the user to say whether it's a new or old. I'll say accidental. I'll say read hyphen host accidental. And the allowed values are what? True or false. These are the allowed values what the user is giving, and whatever the user is inputting, those values will be stored in what? Car model, car type, accidental, and etc. Right? Now what I'm going to do is that now I'll say okay fine, dollar data, same thing. And I'm saying get content hyphen path dot backslash car info dot json type convert from hyphen json. I'm converting something from the JSON into a native language. That is for PowerShell. Then now is where my filtration starts. I need to filter things out. I'll say okay fine, raw data. I'm just putting a variable, anything, it can be X, Y, Z, anything. I'm just putting an ideal value known as raw data is equal to dollar data dot cars, because that's the basically that's the first object basically that I have in this particular data. I'll say pipeline where hyphen object open parenthesis. Now I am saying dollar underscore dot r model, same thing, is equal to or is like, anything is okay. Now what should be the car model here, guys? What should I give the car model as here? Dollar car model, because dollar car model is something which is holding the value what the customer is passing in. The dollar car model. I'll do an and condition. I'll say and, because the customer is specific that he needs a new specifically, right? I'll say and dollar underscore dot car type or say type, sorry. It's just type here. So I'll say dollar type, because this is the value that I'm looking at, which is type. And I'll say is like dollar car type. So dollar car type, dollar car type, and etc. are right now empty values. I do not have any value there. I am letting the user pass it in. And again, so someone asked me that can I pass in a third condition? Yes, I can pass in a third condition. I can say and I'll say dollar underscore dot accidental. I'll say dollar underscore dot accidental is again like whatever is the user that is passing here, which is accidental or not, this will hold the value of either true or false right now. So I'll say just copying this value. I'm putting something like $accidental. Now this conditions, right? These conditions, if I have, let's say something like a large amount of data, can give me a lot of cars, not one but a lot of cars. So this raw data can be holding multiple car values. So just to be sure that it doesn't throw an error, what I will do is I will, let's say, do a for each loop out here. I'm doing a for each. I'm now saying for each dollar value in dollar raw data, I'm saying right host. Firstly a line separator. So just a line separation, just in case there are multiple data, I want to make sure that it's separated. Now I'll say it host name of the car. What should be the name of the car here, guys? Anyone? What should be the name of the car here?
Value dot corner.
Exactly. Dollar value, dollar of dollar value dot car model. And I have the right host car here. And I can say it is dollar of dollar value dot year and then type. I'll say car type dollar of dollar value dot type, and then I can also put in the accidental parameter here. I can do the same thing. I'll say dollar of dollar value dot accidental. Oh, sorry, I did not declare any. Yeah, it even if I don't declare a year, it won't filter it based on the year right now. It's using only those three parameters to filter it. Here I'm just filtering it based on the model, the type, whether it's accidental or not. Any year it's okay for me. Like whichever year, I'm okay with that. So that's the reason I did not give the customer a year to declare, because from the available models I'll just give him the year. You can also do that. You can also declare a year. That is not a problem. You can also go ahead and declare a year also and filter it according to the year. But I'm just giving what information that I want my basically application to ask the customer. And based on that, I'm just declaring all these things out. So if I now execute it right now, let's come back to our console. Let's do a CLS. First thing it's asking me is please enter a car model. And it's telling me Tata, Ford or Maruti. I'll say Tata. It's telling new or old. I'll say, let's see what is the information that I have for Tata. So Tata, I only have old. So even if I enter a new, it doesn't give me anything. So I'll say it is old. Accidental, true or false, I'll say false. And it did not print out anything. Let's see why it did not print out something like this. Let's see. So what is the data that I've entered? Tata, old and false. Tata, old and false. It should have given me one particular car here. Let's see if I have done any error. Okay, I again put a wrong parameter there called card model or something like that. So until and unless we do some error out here, it won't give you anything. So if there is something like dot car model, right, that condition was not satisfied because it wasn't able to get that parameter, and it went ahead and it said, okay, fine, I got null, and that's the reason it did not print anything out here. Let's try this out once again. Say Tata. I'll say old. I'll say false. Now it's giving me some information. It's saying, okay, if in the name of the car is Tata, car year is 2010, car type is old. You can also give the parameter like car is accidental or not. But if I don't give, let's say, a proper thing, let's say like something like I have food, I want an old food, but I don't have that particular information right now. I want to display something like at this point we do not have that car, something like that. You can do an if else statement out here. Inside for each, you can do an if else statement. If let's say the value, or if let's say the raw data is coming as null, you can go to else loop and say, you know what, this particular car is not available with us at this moment, or something like that. So you can now design an end-to-end application which is just taking input from that user, and you can have multiple possibilities, like you can have multiple probabilities and combinations out here. You can have very big data, you can filter through that data. Okay, any questions here, guys?
So we can't compile here only. I mean JSON, whether it is the inputs is correct or wrong. I mean,
We can't compare, I'm sorry, I didn't get you.
no, we can compile the code in JSON. Whatever the VS code, right? You are showing in that. This is the only
Right,
content having a file only. We can't compile here. Run
we can
it.
compare here, but the thing here is that this particular JSON file is for backend, is for me, it's not for the user, it's just for internal purpose. I
Yeah,
don't want to
internet.
expose this data.
The data is correct or not. We need to be just format or syntax is correct or not. We need just execute that. That the data is coming or not, like that.
Okay, just executing it, I mean, to see what is the syntax. So validations, like whether your file is right or not. So yes, that's a
Correct.
great question. So normally what happens is that in this VS code, right, if the file is not right, meaning if I am not entering something out in a proper way, this console will give me an error. Like this particular thing right now is in white, right? So let's say I put an additional comma, or I just say put an additional bracket, something like this entire thing will become red and will tell you, okay, fine, this is the place where you're getting an error and etc. Or you can do one thing, you can just copy the entire file, go to online something known as jsonlint.com, just say jsonlint, put all your file here, validate json. It's giving you the exact line where you have the error, telling that, okay, fine, you know what, this is the line where you're making an error and etc. This is an additional bracket, and I'm not expecting something. If you go down here, it's saying error parse and something like this, and it's not able to parse it. And even if let's say if I save this data, if I go ahead, be adamant and store this data out, and if let's say I use the PowerShell basically in order to convert this JSON, it will throw an error telling that, you know what, I'm not able to understand your JSON file because there is an unexpected something like this. Okay, this is how, or this is known as parsing of a JSON file. It's called PARSE, parse, meaning you're validating something.
Thank you.
Any more questions here, guys?
We have now created a JSON file, right? So in the real time world, you're able to hear me now?
I'm sorry, I lost your question. I'm sorry. Can you come again?
Yeah. So as of now, we have created a JSON file now, right? And
Hmm.
then we are trying to execute, writing the different conditions. But in real time
Okay.
world, right? What client would give this JSON file, and then we try to modify all these things, and try to fetch the details from JSON file.
So it depends. So let's say whether you have a client who's providing all these information. Let's say you have a, basically now you're not working directly for the client. You just start designing an application to the client. The client is giving you all the data. You just need to write an application based on the data. Or the client is telling, okay, fine, I have all this information. Let's say something like in text. Can you now put it in something like JSON? You can also do that. So it depends on what is the requirement. And the reason I'm explaining JSON, reason I'm focusing on JSON, because the next concept that we are going to look at is something known as ARM templates, resource manager templates, which are based out of JSON.
Okay.
So that's the reason I started with JSON. In real time, you might use either an XML, JSON, YAML files, a lot of things out there, and all of those can be read using PowerShell scripts.
Okay.
Any more questions here, guys? So, can you read two files at a time? Yes, you can read two files at a time. In the same line, no. You'll need different variables for that. You need different because one variable is holding the data of one file, the other variable should hold the data of the other file. So in the same line, it'll become a bit tricky for you. Right. To, let's say, add something, you can do that. You can add to an existing data file. You can say set content. There's a command called set content. You can add to a data file. We'll see how you can do that. JSON, yes, you can do that. I'll tell you how to, basically we'll do that and etc. So if let's say you're talking about Excel, then firstly I'll have to read the Excel, convert it into PowerShell, go through each and every object, convert it into JSON, and then inject it into the JSON. Becomes a bit high level, but I'll tell you once the class progresses into it. Yeah, we can filter it out. Okay, guys, so that's all I had for today. And tomorrow we'll see. I've like filtered out something like car models and everything. Tomorrow, let's store information about a storage account, the resource group it should sit in, and how do we create something like this. So that's what the end goal is. So not here really to look at the car models and etc. This is an example of a JSON. Now instead of the car model, can you have storage account name? Instead of, let's say, the type as old, can you have the type as LRS? Instead of something like accidental, can you have something like